what led up to this was certainly the actions of the past council, which back in August of 2020 approved the sewer designation, the water and sewer designation for the Lakeside development in Trapp. And I did not support that. I opposed it. I voted against it. And then I essentially brought it up for reconsideration in last March with Resolution 313 that sought to rescind Resolution 281. I did not get majority support. I was defeated again on that. That led to Lakeside becoming an issue in the election. What can be done about this sort of outsized development that would increase Trapp many times over its existing size? And what I'd always focused on was really the link of that development to the existing Trapp wastewater treatment system, which has not yet been and will not be for several years upgraded to the modern standards, to the ENR state-of-the-art wastewater treatment. So I was asked during the campaign, you know, what are you going to do about this, and I had focused on those clean water issues, and we were asked at the environmental forum hosted by the Chesapeake Bay Foundation. I think it was earlier that same day or the day before that Talbot Integrity Project came out with its campaign framing this up as reset. And we were all asked, what would you do? And I said, given the opportunity, I would love to revisit this Lakeside development, and my record on that was clear enough. As I see it, that opportunity has passed us by. What has transpired since then? Two things. One is really a watershed moment, which is that Maryland Department of the Environment granted its final permit on Lakeside on November 1st, just on the eve of the election. And I think it surprised all of us. They did not simply give the green light to the development. They did not grant a permit as requested by the developer in the town of Trapp. They also didn't deny it. They approved it, but with conditions. The most important of which, or the most prominent of which, is limiting the discharge not to the requested 540,000 gallons per day, but to 100,000 gallons per day. In the MDE permit, they estimated that at their calculation of what one household yields, that this would permit 400 houses. But with that permit, they were able to do a couple of things. One was that they connected a pipe for the first 120 homes to the existing wastewater treatment plant, the existing Trapp plant, which was, again, part of their proposal. They told us that as soon as they got this permit, they would proceed as quickly as they could to build the new wastewater treatment plant, in part because that connection to the existing Trapp plant was to be temporary. And as soon as they had the capacity, they would have to switch those over. They can't build a plant and have just 10 houses on it. The technology doesn't work that way. But when they got a critical mass, now to add more homes, they need that volume of wastewater coming through to add the additional homes. And so those homes would be switched over, as I understand it, to the new wastewater treatment plant that's being built expressly for Lakeside. And MDE made it clear that this was a final permit, that if Lakeside wants to come back for a future stage, another 100,000 gallons, that will be an all-new permit, an all-new process, all-new public review, public hearings, going through all of the stages. That it's not merely a modification or an amendment. It's an all-new permit. Yeah, so I fully expect that at some point in the future, and who knows what the pace of construction will be. I presume that's going to be dictated by the economy, at least in part. But at some point in the future, the town of Trapp itself, the Talbot County, and then ultimately MDE will be asked for a subsequent phase, and we will get to look at that as a new application. After the election, when the new council members were still not yet sworn in, we all received sort of from Talbot Integrity Project, from TIP, a draft resolution and said, this is what we mean by reset Lakeside. Would you please not enact, because it's administrative in nature, would you please pass this administrative resolution? And I went back and forth. I spoke with representatives of TIP about this and took a hard look at language and asked some hard questions about it. Ultimately, I've come to the point where I realize that even if we were to pass this administrative resolution, and let me explain. The administrative resolution is simply a declaration that the Planning Commission had originally approved Resolution 281 that paved the way for Trapp. Then the council approved Resolution 281 that paved the way from Trapp. And then the Planning Commission, presented with new evidence, said, actually, with this new evidence, this is not consistent with the comprehensive plan. And had that happened before the council acted, the council would not have had the opportunity to act. The Planning Commission is a gatekeeper. Once it gets, if they close the gate on that, it can go no further. A finding of consistency by the Planning Commission, a finding of consistency with the comprehensive plan, is a prerequisite for any further action before it can go on to the next governmental level. So the council, had that happened before the council acted, the council could not have approved it. And without that council approval, Maryland Department of the Environment likewise could not have accepted the changes would not have been presented with the changes to the comprehensive water and sewer plan. So the wrinkle, of course, is that Planning Commission action happened, if you will, out of sequence. It had already gone on to the next government level. So what I've learned is that given that, Maryland Department of the Environment, between that and the Maryland Department of Environment regarding the construction that has already taken place on these sewer elements as vested rights. They've spent a certain amount, they've gone on with a valid permit, they've done a certain construction, that you can't take that back. That given these factors, MDE would not be able to rescind the wastewater permit. And therefore, a council action asking them to recognize our Planning Commission's later finding and saying that in fact Resolution 281 was null, void, rescinded. So now, where do we go? I've been asked, introduce that resolution anyway. But I'm a pragmatist. I want to get things done. Maybe in Washington, people do things just to make a point. Put a vote on record, a flag in the ground, show where you stand. But it doesn't actually accomplish anything. That's posturing. And I don't know, maybe I'm not very good at this, but I really have no interest in posturing. I wish there were more that could be done. I just think at this point, I need to recognize what cannot be done and devote my energies toward what can be done and toward setting out a vision for the future and for improving the rule book and the vision for Talbot County with things like an adequate public facilities ordinance, for what can be achieved and will be achieved, I think, in the rewrite of the Comprehensive Water and Sewer Plan, which we are doing right now. That's now in front of the Public Works Advisory Board. It is coming to a workshop before the council on January 31st. And it is an opportunity to ensure that what MDE said in its permit gets manifested in our local documents, so that we will continue to have a local voice and a local decision in future phases of Lakeside.